By now, it's no secret that most companies aren't getting value from AI. Not because the tech is weak, but because the way it's deployed is. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the top 10 reasons AI programs stall, leak money, or quietly die in pilot, and exactly what to do instead. We'll start at the top, who actually owns this, and then move on to the measurement, governance, and the traps that turn small pilots into expensive theater. By the end, you'll have a checklist you can take into your next meeting and ask, are we set up to capture value or to create noise? If you're new here, I'm John from BrainCube. We help businesses turn AI into competitive advantage, accelerating product innovation, cutting costs, and driving revenue growth that sticks. Let's get into our top 10. So reason number 1, no accountable executive. Let's start with the ownership. The strongest predictor of value is visible leadership. McKinsey's 2025 data show CEO oversight of AI governance correlates with EBIT impact. Yet, only 28% of firms have a CEO in that role, and just 17% report board oversight. That governance gap shows up later as stalled scaling and unclear priorities. We're seeing policy follow suit. In the United States, federal agencies must appoint a chief AI officer. The point here is simple. If the top team doesn't own AI, you won't mobilize the organization to capture value. From ownership, let's now move on to how we measure progress. Reason number 2, pilots are not tied to any KPIs. Many pilots are technically interesting, but commercially invisible. McKinsey finds that tracking well-defined KPIs is one of the practices that most associated with better bottom line outcomes. Yet fewer than 1 in 5 large organizations actually do it. MIT Sloan and BCG show that revising or enhancing KPIs with AI makes companies roughly 3 times more likely to realize financial benefits. The fix is straightforward. Each use case must have 1 or 2 P&L linked metrics, a target and a decision rule for scale up or shutdown. Measurement is necessary, but not sufficient alone. Governance must also keep pace. And that moves us on to our next item. The next reason on the list is that the firm has no governance fabric. In early 2024, only 18% of organizations had an enterprise-wide responsible AI body, and 44% reported negative consequences from generative AI. At the same time, regulation is tightening. The EU AI Act's ban on unacceptable risk systems started applying from the 2nd of February 2025. Transparency for general purpose AI follows 12 months after entry into force, and high-risk obligations arrive at 36 months. Without a governance fabric, roles, escalation paths, and controls, risk aversion fills the vacuum and deployment store. Quick interlude before we carry on with the rest of the list. The BrainCube Agentic AI Blueprint takes you from pilot purgatory to measurable impact. We start with the strategy, map the value and the risks, then mobilize governance controls and evaluation in place. Next, we prove value fast with a real MVP, then embed it into the daily workflows. Finally, we scale responsibly with cost controls and compliance built in. Every step ties back to your profit and loss. The full blueprint is available to download in the description. With that toolkit in mind, let's continue with the remaining failure modes. Number 5 on this list is when businesses decide to build when actually they should buy. Skills, integration complexity, and price show up repeatedly as blockers. IBM's 2024 index highlights 33% citing skills, 25% data complexity, and 22% integration and scale. 21% call out price. For non-differentiating capabilities, buying and tailoring accelerates time to value and improves compliance posture. Save bespoke builds for the few areas where you can articulate a defensible advantage and a KPI lift. But of course, tools don't help if people can't or won't use them. This brings us on to our next failure, staff adoption failure. 3 numbers matter. 75% of employees already use AI. Only around 39% report any training, and 78% bring their own AI, otherwise known as shadow AI. That's latent demand meeting minimal enablement. The result is inconsistent quality and unmanaged risk. The remedy? Role-based training, incentives aligned to KPI outcomes, and pragmatic guardrails so employees can use AI safely and effectively. Underneath adoption sits data readiness, and that moves us on to our next failure mode. The lack of data infrastructure and stewardship. Data is a rate limiter. IBM's survey shows limited skills at 33% and data complexity at 25% as leading barriers. Leaders respond by centralizing data governance, investing in quality and lineage, and making access controls routine. Treat data foundations as a precondition. No green light for scale without a credible plan for data quality, provenance, and monitoring. Next is the shiny object trap. Gartner expects more than 40% of agentic AI projects to be scrapped by 2027, largely due to unclear value and cost. The defense is a stage gate pipeline. No KPI line of sight, no progression. If a concept can't show measurable uplift in a controlled pilot, it shouldn't consume platform engineering capacity. Even with good ideas, the operating model can still block value. The next on this list is siloed operating models. Value comes from rewiring work, not sprinkling tools. McKinsey's 2025 study finds only 21% have fundamentally redesigned workflows. Create cross-functional product squads with a named owner who owns budget and outcome KPIs. Their mandate is to redesign processes end-to-end so that AI can actually change how work gets done. And when we don't redesign processes, we get stuck in pilot purgatory. Over 80% of organizations report no enterprise-level EBIT impact from Gen AI. A big reason, pilots aren't industrialized. The fix is to define patterns from day one. Retrieval augmented generation, guardrails, offline and online evaluations, monitoring, rollback, and to build landing zones that make scale the default, not an afterthought. Finally, we must correctly fund the change itself. The last failure mode I want to address is underinvesting in capability building. A useful rule of thumb is 10-20-70. Technology is the small slice. Data, processes, and especially people consume the majority. Yet we still see the training gap. Only about 39% trained despite widespread use. Budget for enablement straight away and bake adoption metrics into the objectives and key results. If people can't use it, you won't see the value of generative AI. If you're ready to move past pilots and into value creation, let's talk. Book a 30-minute scoping call with me or head to braincube.com. We'll map out your AI opportunities, the risks, and the fastest path from strategy to scale.